All right, let's continue. So the employee, we are saying, should have been given the orders. All right, that's the first thing. Now, under what circumstances do insubordination are okay? Say, for instance, you tell an employee to perform a task, then they might not say it directly to you as a superior or manager that I'm not going to do that. Maybe they'll simply keep quiet and then they nod their head that I'm going to do it. But when we check after a certain period of time or after a day or be it some minutes, be it some hours or some weeks, then you find that the employer has not performed that task or that duty. Sometimes they might take a reasonably longer period of time than expected. So it might take a lengthy period of time for that task to be performed. Um, then that's might be uh, gross insubordination as well. All right. Then why is insubordination dangerous or not good for the organization? By the mere fact that the employee is refusing to carry out the task or the orders which have been given to him or her, it will spoil the environment. It will make the environment in the organization start to decompose. There is risk that other employees might start to do the same thing. Once employees see that one employee does not respect the superior or the manager, then they are prone to do the same thing. They are prone to do the same thing. So such a insubordination should not be tolerated if the atmosphere and the morale within the organization is to go well. Right, but there are one or two circumstances where an employee should not be held accountable for insubordination. Right, say for instance, an employee might refuse to carry out an order which is unlawful. Maybe it's not part of his or her job description. For instance, an administrator or a receptionist or a sales agent cannot be ordered or be given instructions to clean toilets. Normally, those ones are outside the responsibility of such an individual. So, if the employee refuses, that order will not be reasonable. But for a sales agent to refuse to conduct cold selling, sales agent or sales consultant to refuse to conduct cold calling. Cold calling occurs when a sales personnel or sales representatives makes calls to prospects looking for business opportunities to do business with them. And if such a sales agent refuses to make those calls, then it's looked as if the agent has carried out what is referred to as the gross insubordination. All right. Um, the other circumstances might be where, for instance, a bus driver might refuse to drive a bus without uh, adequate, uh, um, like a bus without maybe a fire extinguisher, or a cook might refuse to work in a kitchen where one of the gas tanks is leaking. All right, there's a leak on a liquid petroleum gas, and that thing puts a risk to the life of the cook. So there, under such a situation, the cook cannot be held accountable that he or she refused to perform duties. Why here the fact or the point which is highlighted is it was going to put the life of the employee at risk. The same way where a driver might refuse to drive a bus or a vehicle with the brake failure, right? Maybe the brakes are not functioning well, the braking system. And then the driver can say, I'm not going to drive that vehicle. Under such a situation, that one is not gross insubordination. The order has been given, but when the order has been given, the employee is refusing to obey the instruction. Why? Because the duties or the task to be performed will put the life of the employee into jeopardy or in danger. So they, normally our courts will say the employee should not be held accountable for carrying out such a task. The other circumstances might be where the orders violate company policy. Say, for instance, a boss who might tell his or her secretary to write, um, say, for instance, a letter or to type a CV where he or she is applying for a job or to write an assignment. All right? Then such a thing is not part and parcel of the job description. So writing of the assignments or type my assignment, I'm talking about maybe the superior is um, carrying out further studies, then it's typed as an assignment which is on paper, then say, can you type this assignment for me? Normally those things, as long as the things are outside the normal course of doing job, then those are we say they violate company policy. Right. So notice that for insubordination to be there, the employee should have been told. The employee should have refused to obey the order or the instruction. And then the orders should be lawful. And the employee should acknowledge that I was given the orders, but I did not perform. All right? Then, once those things are established, then mostly it results in a situation where there might be termination. Why? Because there is undermining of authority of the superior, the boss or the employer. It will be difficult for the manager or the superior or the employer to carry out or to continue with such type of an employee. And it must be known that there are consequences for any wrongdoing or any behavior which is not in par with the expected standards. Employees have a contractual duty or obligation of obeying instructions. The moment when employees do not obey instructions, then the company might take measures of dismissing them or terminating their contracts of employment. So if you are taken to a hearing after you have disobeyed some instructions or regulations, then know that the employers, what they are looking for is one, that the employee was told to obey, to carry out some duties or instructions. Then two, the instructions should have been lawful or and reasonable. It won't be reasonable to tell an employee maybe at 5 o'clock when the employee is supposed to knock off, or or when the employee is on holiday or the employee is on off day that come and carry out some duties, unless the employee works for emergency services or unless the contract of employment specifies that the employee can be called at short notice to come at the workplace. All right? So the instructions should be lawful. That is, they should be in line with the rules and regulations of the country. And two, they should be in line with the regulations of the company policy. The employee handbook should not have been violated. And then the contract of employment, the job description should actually also support those instructions or orders. Now, the problem will now lie on the employee who refuses to obey those instructions. But if the employee, say, is ordered, maybe it's an accountant who is told by the bosses that maybe under invoicing or declaring less profits, then the accountant cannot be fired for carrying out those things. Normally, the tax authorities, if they find that there was um, window dressing of the financial statements or falsification of documents in order to pay less tax, then the accountant who prepared or who was part and parcel of the preparation of those financial statements might be held accountable, and um, such an act will constitute a criminal offense. So if the accountant refuses to say, I'm not going to sign or to reduce the amount of earnings or profits, then they cannot be fired on cause of gross insubordination. Such disobeying of instructions will not amount to insubordination. Why? Because the order is unlawful and unreasonable. All right? So the things should be lawful. The things should be lawful. Same applies to a scientist to work in um, at a drug manufacturing company. Maybe the company policy or the laws and regulations say tests for drugs or medicines should not be conducted on animals. And then if the management of the company says, can you test whether this drug is effective on animals? Then if the scientist or the employee lab technician who is there refuses to perform such an order, he or she might not be held accountable or should not be dismissed on basis of gross insubordination. So notice that the thing should be lawful, number one. Number two, it should be reasonable. And number three, the employee should have been told, all right? Either the communication should have passed verbally or in written form. All right. So how can you then reduce insubordination within your organization? Right, there are a number of ways in which you can reduce insubordination within the organization. So make it clear that such behavior will not be tolerated within your organization. Make it very clear that that behavior will not be accepted. So you are the one who have the right to tell the employees that this I want, this I don't want. All right. The ball will be in your court. All right. They talk about I call the shots. All right. I determine what is done within the organization. So it is you as the manager or the superior who determines what is done and what is not done within the organization. All right. And the other thing which you can do, train the workers. Sometimes they do not do the task. Why? Because they might lack training. All right, they might lack training. Then number three, try to be very honest with the employees. Uh, if the employees request something, do also stick to your word. If you promise them, are going to also comply with certain things. So employees are most likely to find it easier to accept orders to someone who is who treat them in a good manner. And then the way or manner or the way or manner in which you deliver the instructions should show respect to the employees as well. If you want people to respect you, you also need to respect them. All right? And they say treat people as adults, and they will treat you also as an adult. Okay, so normally it's not a matter of forcing or imposing, but it is how you treat the subordinates which determines how things will move like in the future. So the at the end, threats of threatening that will fire you, will dismiss you if you do not obey this instruction. In the long run, they do not work. So organizations should work on their own without intimidation or threats. Right? So thank you guys. I hope you find this video to be beneficial. If you have enjoyed the video or if you have some questions, please put your questions on the comment section below. Like this video and subscribe to this channel. Thank you. Remember, part of this video is only meant for advisory purposes. The content of this video should not act as a substitute for your attorney or legal practitioner or human resources officer or a human resources manager. Remember, cases differ from one area to the other. So it is best for you to consult your attorney or legal practitioner or human resources manager or human resources officer or personal officer if you need more information on how to handle different cases. Right, thank you guys. We'll meet on the next video. Sure.